The grand chamber of the Galactic Council was as impressive as it was ancient, filled with towering figures from across the galaxy. The amphitheater stretched far and wide, accommodating representatives from over 100 species, each seated by rank and influence. Ornate banners representing the most powerful empires draped the high walls, while the scent of exotic gases from different worlds blended in the air. The debates held here shaped the future of the galaxy, but today it wasn't the usual air of dignified seriousness. It was one of ridicule. Laughter echoed from the center of the room, where the towering reptilian Raxer stood. Lord High Commander Gornik, their military leader, flashed a toothy grin as he addressed the council, his massive tail sweeping the floor. The Terrans have formally announced the creation of their defensive military force, he said, the corners of his scaled lips curling in mock amusement. And what did they call it? The Asterisk Terran Defense Force Asterisk. Or was it the Asterisk Tiny Army Asterisk? The council erupted in laughter again, many of the representatives joining in. The Raxer were one of the galaxy's oldest and largest military powers, their fleets numbering in the tens of millions, their soldiers bred for war over centuries. To them, a newly emerged species like humanity, small and isolated, was nothing but a joke. Commander Amina Ortiz sat silently in the human delegation seat, her back straight, her face unreadable. She was petite by galactic standards, but her presence commanded respect, a contrast to the image her species projected on the galactic stage. Humans were a relatively new species in the galaxy, having only achieved faster-than-light travel a century ago. They had been expanding their influence slowly, cautiously. Their numbers were few, and their resources compared to the vast empires of the galaxy were limited. But Ortiz didn't flinch at the mocking laughter. A green-skinned diplomat from the Quirkshan Consortium, a spider-like species known for their shrewdness in trade, clicked its mandibles and joined in the taunting. Perhaps the humans believe they can barter for their lives with words of peace while defending their colonies with a handful of soldiers. The laughter grew louder, but one species remained silent. The Ven, a tall, enigmatic race known for their analytical minds and calm demeanor. Ambassador Ilvash, one of the senior members of the council, turned his cold gaze toward Ortiz, his 4 eyes narrowing. While the others mocked, Ilvash remained thoughtful, watching the human representative closely. Perhaps, he said in his slow, deliberate voice, we should not be so quick to dismiss the Terrans. I have seen records of their ancient wars that shaped their species. They may not be as numerous as the Raxer, nor as technologically advanced as the Silax, but their history is violent. The room quieted slightly, but the arrogance of the dominant powers was difficult to shake. Commander Gornik snorted, crossing his thick, armored arms. Violent? Ha! Let them try their violence on us, and we'll crush them under our claws. This so-called army they have mustered. What did you say, Ortiz? How many soldiers did your Terran Defense Force field? All eyes turned to her now. Commander Ortiz finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. Our forces are currently small in number, yes, Commander Gornik, but they are not small in purpose. We believe in quality over quantity. Each of our soldiers is trained and equipped with the best technology and combat strategies humanity has developed. The smirking Raxer commander leaned in. And how many soldiers are we talking about? Currently, our standing force numbers just over 50,000. Ortiz replied, keeping her gaze locked on Gornik. Murmurs swept through the council, some shocked, others amused. Gornik laughed harder than before, the sound booming through the chamber. 50,000. That wouldn't even fill one of our smallest battle cruisers. You expect to defend your colonies with that asterisk. A tiny army indeed. Ortiz remained unshaken, meeting his laughter with a calm, almost eerie confidence. We don't expect you to understand, Commander. Our strength isn't in our numbers, but in what those numbers are capable of. We don't need millions of soldiers, just enough. Silence fell over the chamber, the laughter finally dying out. There was something unsettling about Ortez's poise, something that made the room feel colder. Ilvash, the Ven ambassador, watched her with increasing interest. He leaned slightly forward in his seat, intrigued by the human's calm demeanor amid the storm of mockery. The Raxor commander, sensing the shift in mood, barked a final insult. "Well, we'll see how far your tiny army takes you. When the Raxor Empire decides to march, your colonies will fall like grains of sand in the wind." Orts didn't flinch. She merely smiled and said, "We'll see." With that, the council session ended, but a seed of doubt had been planted, and while most left the chamber still laughing, one figure remained deep in thought, calculating the unseen dangers the humans might yet pose. Raxor battle cruiser Dominator pierced through the void of space, its massive hull casting a shadow over the barren, desolate moon of Orion 9. From the viewing deck, Commander Gornick gazed out at the dark planet below, his large reptilian fingers tapping rhythmically against the metal railing. Beside him stood his second-in-command, Captain Vrock, who was reviewing the invasion details on his data tablet. "This should be a quick sweep, Commander," Vrock said confidently, his voice deep and grating. "Only a handful of Terran soldiers are stationed on this rock. If our intelligence is correct, they barely have a defense grid. Their forces are insignificant." Gornick chuckled, his scaled face pulling back into a satisfied grin. "Insignificant indeed. After the embarrassment they caused us at the council, I want this to be a massacre. We'll wipe them out, send a message to their so-called alliance, and remind them that they are nothing in the face of the Raxor Empire." Vrock nodded, a vicious gleam in his eyes. The Raxor Legion was fully prepared for war. Battle-hardened troops, heavy armor, and air superiority would overwhelm anything the humans could throw at them. The planet's surface scans showed little in the way of defenses, just a small Terran outpost built into the rocky cliffs, hardly worth the Raxor's attention. "Deploy the ground forces," Gornick ordered, his claws clicking together in anticipation. "I want no survivors." The drop pods crashed into the surface of Orion 9 with the force of a meteor shower, leaving clouds of dust and debris in their wake. Hundreds of Raxor soldiers marched out, their armor gleaming under the harsh light of the distant sun. Each warrior stood over 7 feet tall, their muscular frames covered in organic armor designed to absorb and repel ballistic fire. Their heavy weapons, energy rifles, and plasma cannons hummed with power. Captain Vrock led the ground assault, flanked by his elite soldiers. The barren landscape of Orion 9 was eerie, the silence unsettling. There were no signs of life, no immediate defenses, just jagged rocks and empty sky. "Advance," Vrock barked into his comms. "Scanners show the outpost is less than 2 clicks north. Stay alert, but this should be easy. We'll be home in time for the next council session." As the Raxor advanced, the barren terrain seemed to stretch endlessly. The first signs of human presence appeared in the form of small drones hovering in the distance, tiny metallic spheres barely large enough to be a threat. "They're sending drones at us," one of Vrock's soldiers sneered. "Pathetic." Vrock raised a hand, signaling the squad to halt. Something felt off. These drones weren't attacking, just hovering in place as if observing them. Then, without warning, the ground beneath them erupted. Explosions tore through the Raxor ranks, throwing soldiers into the air and shattering the quiet of the moon's surface. Shock and chaos spread through the ranks as the drones activated, sending waves of electromagnetic pulses through the Raxor systems. Armor flickered and short-circuited. Weapons sputtered as targeting systems failed. "Ambush, defensive positions," Vrock roared, but it was already too late. From the cliffs above, a hail of precision fire rained down on the disoriented Raxor. Small squads of Terran soldiers, outfitted in sleek, high-tech exosuits, descended from hidden positions, their movements swift and deliberate. Each shot from their energy rifles found its mark, picking off the Raxor forces with brutal efficiency. "What is this?" Vrock shouted into his comms, trying to rally his troops. But his systems were jammed, and panic began to spread. The Raxer, trained for frontal assaults and overwhelming force, had no defense against this kind of warfare. The humans were hitting them with surgical precision, striking hard, then retreating into the rocky landscape before they could be counterattacked. Vrock's heart raced as he took cover behind a boulder, his mind struggling to make sense of the chaos. This wasn't supposed to happen. This was a simple raid against a weak colony. They were the Raxer Empire. They were supposed to crush their enemies, not be ambushed like prey. Through the dust and smoke, he caught sight of a human soldier, smaller and sleeker than any Raxer warrior, but moving with deadly purpose. The soldier's visor glinted in the dim light as she dropped two of his men with precision shots, then vanished into the shadows of the cliffside. "Regroup! Regroup!" Vrock shouted desperately into his comms, but his voice was drowned out by the screams of his dying soldiers and the relentless sound of human weapons. Above the battlefield, Commander Gornick watched the chaos unfold through the tactical displays aboard the Dominator *. His grin faded as he realized the scale of the disaster below. His forces were being slaughtered by a mere handful of human soldiers. This was no weak, pathetic force. This was a highly coordinated, highly effective military operation. How is this possible?" he muttered, his disbelief turning into a cold, creeping fear. By the end of the day, the once proud Raxer Legion lay in ruins, their bodies scattered across the surface of Orion 9. The few survivors limped back to their dropships, their defeat undeniable. And as they retreated, the same thought echoed through the minds of every Raxer soldier. The humans weren't weak. They weren't to be underestimated. This was only the beginning. In this continuation of Part 2, the Raxer experienced their first devastating encounter with human tactics, shifting the tone from overconfidence to fear as they realized that the tiny army is far deadlier than they anticipated. The fast-paced battle and unexpected ambush keep the reader engaged, while the growing tension hints at the larger conflict to come. This part introduces the galactic dynamics and sets up the central tension between the mocking Raxer and the composed humans, hinting at future confrontations. It also introduces the mysterious side of human warfare, teasing the audience with what's to come. The Galactic Council chamber was a far cry from the jovial atmosphere of just days before. The Raxer Empire, once full of bluster and arrogance, had gone silent in the aftermath of the Orion 9 debacle. Rumors had begun to swirl, whispers of a defeat so catastrophic that the Raxer had refused to even file an official report. Inside the chamber, the tension was palpable. The usual hum of casual conversation among diplomats and representatives was replaced with murmurs of uncertainty. The Raxer seat was conspicuously empty, adding to the unease that hung over the room like a storm cloud. At the center of it all sat Commander Amina Ortiz, her expression calm and unreadable. She had not spoken a word since the council reconvened, allowing the silence to stretch on, the weight of the unspoken lingering in the minds of those present. Around her, the other human representatives sat with equal composure, waiting. Finally, breaking the silence, Ambassador Ilvash of the Ven cleared his throat. His four eyes fixed on Ortiz, his tall, slender figure leaning forward slightly in curiosity. The Ven were not a species known for overt emotions, but even Ilvash couldn't conceal his growing interest in the humans. "Commander Ortiz," he began, his voice deliberate and calm, "there have been troubling reports from Orion 9. It is said that a Raxer force, *1, was dispatched to your outpost there. And yet, it seems the Raxer have not returned in the numbers they were expected to." Ortiz allowed a small smile to form at the corner of her lips. "Yes, Ambassador Ilvash, the Raxer did send a force to Orion 9. I believe they underestimated us." "Underestimated you?" came the sharp voice of Cherek, the Brakthor representative, whose species was known for their brute strength and impulsive nature. His four muscular arms crossed in front of him, and his eyes narrowed in suspicion. "From what we've heard, your forces there numbered barely a few dozen. How could they possibly have withstood a full Raxor battalion?" Orts met his gaze evenly. "They underestimated our soldiers, our technology, our strategy. The Raxor believed that overwhelming force was all that mattered, but wars aren't won by numbers alone." Cherak scowled, but Ilvesh raised a hand to silence him. His sharp intellect focused on the subtle undertones in Ortez's words. "Tell me, Commander," he asked, his voice quieter now, "what exactly happened at Orion 9? The reports have been vague, at best, and the Raxor themselves have remained silent." Ortez leaned back in her seat, exuding a quiet confidence. "We defended our outpost. Our soldiers used guerrilla tactics and advanced technology to outmaneuver the Raxor. Their defeat was swift. As for the details, perhaps you should ask them directly." The tension in the room spiked. The suggestion that the Raxor, a military powerhouse, had been so easily defeated was difficult for many to comprehend. Across the room, several representatives exchanged uneasy glances, the reality of the situation beginning to settle in. Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors opened, and in walked a delegation of Raxor. Commander Gornik, still battle-scarred from Orion 9, led the group. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by a grim, barely contained rage. He took his seat without a word, the heavy thud of his armor echoing in the quiet room. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, Ilvash, ever the diplomat, turned to Gornik. "Commander, we were just discussing the events at Orion 9. Perhaps you could shed some light on what transpired there." Gornik's eyes burned with fury as he glared at Ortez. "It was a miscalculation," he growled, his voice thick with venom. "We were caught off guard by the human tactics. They fight like cowards, using stealth and tricks. They don't fight like warriors." Orts raised an eyebrow. "Is that what you call a miscalculation? I'd say it was a failure of your overconfidence." Gornik's fists clenched, but before he could respond, Ilvash cut in. "Enough." His calm, cold voice commanded the room. "The question is not how the Raxor were defeated, but what this means for the Council. The Terrans are clearly not as weak as we once believed." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber, and for the first time, the representatives of other species seemed to reconsider their views of humanity. The galaxy had been quick to mock the humans for their small numbers, but now, their ability to win battles with such few soldiers was becoming a matter of concern. Ambassador Kellex of the Silax, a species known for their technological superiority, leaned forward. "Commander Ortez, you've demonstrated remarkable capabilities. I believe it's time we understood exactly what kind of military force the Terran Alliance has created." Ortz smiled again, this time with an edge of steel. "We call it the Terran Defense Force. And believe me, Ambassador Kellex, you've only seen a fraction of what we're capable of." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. The Council was no longer laughing at humanity. They were beginning to fear them. This part escalates the political tension, revealing that the Raxor's defeat is no longer just a military matter, but one that shakes the Galactic Council's assumptions. The introduction of the defeated Raxor commander shifts the tone, as the Council begins to understand that humanity's military prowess is not to be underestimated, setting the stage for even larger confrontations. Villuna's station orbited a desolate planet on the fringes of human space, a remote outpost serving as a refueling and observation point for ships passing through the outer colonies. In the past few weeks, it had become more than that. It was now the front line in a growing conflict, with tensions between humanity and the Raxor Empire escalating. Villuna's station had been transformed into a key military post. Inside the station's command center, Commander Amina Ortez stood at a large tactical display, watching as data streams from the surrounding sectors poured in. The room was a hive of activity, with officers working feverishly to monitor incoming and outgoing ships. The Raxor were moving, and their target was becoming clear: Vilunus. They've deployed 3 battle cruisers and a dozen smaller warships, Captain Yo said, his voice filled with urgency. He gestured to the display, which showed the Raxor fleet closing in. They'll be in weapons range within an hour. Our defenses won't last long against that kind of firepower. Ortiz studied the map, her mind racing. Villanas Station wasn't meant to hold against a full-scale assault, and the Raxor knew that. This wasn't just a random attack. It was a calculated move to strike at one of humanity's key outposts and to prove the Raxor's dominance. She couldn't let that happen. What about reinforcements? Ortiz asked. None nearby, Yao replied grimly. The closest fleet is still days away. We're on our own. Ortiz narrowed her eyes. Asterisk-un, our own asterisk. That was exactly how humanity had survived for so long, fighting when the odds were stacked against them. If the Raxor thought they could crush Villanas Station with brute force, they were about to learn how wrong they were. Prepare the station's defense grid, Ortiz ordered, and send out an emergency alert to the nearby colonies. We need every available ship ready to mobilize. Yao saluted and moved to relay the orders. Meanwhile, Ortiz tapped into her personal comms device, opening a secure line to the team she had sent out on a covert mission earlier that week, the Ghosts of Earth. Led by Captain Eric Voss, the Ghosts had been tasked with sabotaging key Raxor vessels in the outer system. If they could cripple the Raxor's firepower, Villanas Station might stand a chance. Far away from Villanas, Captain Eric Voss and his small team of Ghosts were aboard a stolen Raxor supply ship, silently approaching one of the lead battle cruisers in the enemy fleet. Inside the cramped cockpit, Voss watched as the Raxor ships grew larger on the viewport. His heart pounded with anticipation, but his face remained stoic. Approaching the Scourge asterisk, one of his soldiers whispered, keeping an eye on their cloaking systems. The Scourge asterisk was the largest of the Raxor cruisers, its massive hull bristling with weaponry. If they could disable its power systems, the entire fleet would be thrown into chaos. Voss nodded. Once we're inside, move quickly. We have limited time before their sensors pick us up. Plant the charges and exfiltrate. The stolen ship slipped through the Raxor defense perimeter unnoticed, its cloaking technology blending seamlessly with the fleet's systems. As they docked on the underside of the battle cruiser, Voss and his team moved with the efficiency of predators. Dressed in stealth suits that absorbed light and sound, the Ghosts became shadows as they entered the ship. Inside, the halls were dimly lit and cold, the air filled with the faint hum of machinery. The Raxor crew moved about their duties, unaware that death was stalking them. Voss split the team into 2 groups. You know the mission. Disable the power core and plant the EMP charges. We hit them hard and get out. No mistakes. His team nodded, their faces grim but determined. They moved silently through the corridors, avoiding Raxor patrols, their mission clear. Within minutes, they had reached the power core, a massive structure pulsating with energy. One by one, the Ghosts planted their charges, careful not to trigger any alarms. As Voss finished setting his last charge, a sudden voice echoed in his earpiece. Captain, we've got incoming. Raxor patrol, 2 levels down. They're heading toward your position. Voss cursed under his breath. They were running out of time. Everyone, fall back to the extraction point. Now. The team moved swiftly, but the halls began to light up with red alarms. Raxor soldiers, alerted to their presence, surged through the ship, weapons at the ready. The Ghosts were fast, but the Raxor were relentless. Charges set. Voss yelled into his comm. Blow it. The power core detonated, sending a shockwave through the Scourge asterisk. Lights flickered, and the ship shuddered violently. The EMP charges followed, frying systems across the Raxor fleet. Chaos erupted as the fleet's formation crumbled. Back at Villanas Station, Ortiz watched the tactical display as the Raxor ships began to falter. The Scourge asterisk drifted, powerless, and several other ships had been disabled. Ortiz smiled grimly. Prepare all weapons. Target the remaining ships and fire at will. Valona Station's defense grid lit up, sending volleys of plasma and railgun fire into the disorganized Raxor fleet. One by one, the enemy ships fell, unable to defend themselves from the onslaught. As the last Raxor ship was destroyed, the tension in the room eased. They had won, for now. Ortiz tapped into her comms. "Voss, report." "We're clear," Voss's voice crackled through. "Mission accomplished." "Good work," Ortiz said. "Now let's make sure they don't forget what happened here." This part brings the action to the forefront, showing the ghosts of Earth in their element as they sabotage the Raxor fleet, turning the tide of battle in favor of the Valona Station. The victory, while small, is crucial and sends a clear message to the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated. The victory at Valona Station sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For the second time in just a few months, the Raxor Empire, feared for its military might, had suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of humanity's so-called tiny army. The Galactic Council was buzzing with rumors, debates, and whispers of how such a small, newly emerged race could fend off one of the most powerful empires in the known galaxy. In the heart of Earth's Terran Defense Command, Commander Amina Ortiz and General Ethan Reyes stood before an intricate holographic display. It detailed every inch of the Terran Defense Force's strategic networks, from its covert units like the Ghosts of Earth to its advanced weapons systems. Despite their recent successes, both knew the war with the Raxor was far from over. The galaxy's curiosity about humanity's true strength had grown, and with it, the risks. "We can't keep up the deception much longer," Reyes said, his brow furrowed as he studied the projections. "The Raxor will soon realize that our victories aren't just luck, and the Council is already sniffing around for answers." Ortiz nodded. "They'll want to know how we're pulling this off. Our numbers don't make sense on paper. They think our army is tiny, barely more than a handful of soldiers. But it's time they learn the truth." Reyes grunted in agreement. "We've built more than just an army. It's time the galaxy understood what makes us dangerous." Ortiz glanced toward the far corner of the command room, where a section of the floor opened, revealing the hidden elevator. "We have to show them," she said, "the real source of our strength." Far beneath the Andes Mountains, hidden in a facility known only to the highest-ranking Terran military officials, the elevator doors opened to reveal the heart of Earth's military secret. Ortiz and Reyes stepped into a cavernous, high-tech lab buzzing with activity. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers worked side by side, developing and refining the very systems that had allowed humanity to punch far above its weight. At the center of the room was the answer to the galaxy's confusion. The Terran Defense Force was not simply a tiny army. It was something far more formidable. "Project Aegis," Ortiz said, her voice filled with pride. "This is what they don't see." Before them was a massive array of holographic displays showcasing thousands of specialized autonomous drones, enhanced exoskeletons, AI-assisted tactical systems, and most importantly, the Neural Command Interface, NCI, the technology that connected every soldier in the Terran Defense Force to an advanced network of artificial intelligence. "The galaxy thinks we're outnumbered," Reyes added, stepping forward to one of the displays. "In reality, we've leveraged every bit of our technological prowess to turn the battlefield in our favor." Ortiz gestured to one of the engineers, who brought up a live feed from an ongoing training exercise. On the screen, a group of Terran soldiers, each equipped with an exoskeleton, moved in perfect synchronization, their movements guided by the NCI, which analyzed battlefield data in real time and provided instantaneous feedback. The soldiers moved as one, with a speed and precision that no ordinary soldier could achieve. The NCI allows every soldier to be connected to a central AI network, Ortiz explained. It gives them immediate access to tactical data, enemy positions, and battlefield analytics. It's like having 100 generals in each soldier's mind, guiding their every move. Reyes nodded. And when you combine that with the Ghost's covered operations and the drones providing additional firepower, our tiny army is anything but. Ortiz smiled. The Council thinks our forces are small because they only see our personnel numbers. But what they don't realize is that our soldiers aren't just individuals. They're part of a much larger, smarter, and deadlier network. And when you add in the drones and our AI-driven tactical systems, every human soldier fights with the power of 10. And that's not even counting our deep space systems, Rise added, pointing to a series of orbital defense platforms and stealth-capable strike vessels. We've been playing a different game while they've been focusing on raw numbers. As they continued walking through the lab, Ortiz paused in front of a massive storage chamber, its walls lined with sleek black drones and weapons that were far more advanced than anything humanity had revealed to the galaxy. "This is what has allowed us to beat the Raxer," she said, her voice low and full of conviction. "While they rely on overwhelming force and brute strength, we've built a force that adapts, learns, and evolves in real time. We've turned every battle into a test, and each time we win, we get stronger." Rice folded his arms, but the Council is watching us more closely now. The Raxer won't rest until they've figured out what makes us so dangerous. And the other empires, they'll either want to copy us or destroy us before we become an even bigger threat. Ortiz's eyes hardened. Then let them come. They'll find out soon enough that it's not the size of our army that matters. It's the fact that we've already changed the rules of war. The secrets of humanity's tiny army were finally laid bare, not just a small group of elite soldiers, but an interconnected force of highly trained personnel, AI-driven systems, and autonomous drones. It wasn't just their tactics that set them apart. It was the entire philosophy behind their warfare. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now that mistake was about to cost them. The Raxer fleet gathered on the edge of the Zelthan Nebula, a place known for its treacherous space currents and cloaking properties that could hide entire armadas. This was their final gambit. Humiliated by their previous defeats at the hands of humanity's tiny army, the Raxer High Command was desperate to regain their dominance and crush the growing threat of the Terran Defense Force. But this time, they weren't just aiming to defeat a colony or an outpost. They intended to obliterate Earth itself. General Arlox, the Raxer's most revered military strategist, stood aboard his command ship, the Ravager *. His scaly hands gripped the edges of the tactical display as he studied the vast Raxer fleet, composed of hundreds of warships, dreadnoughts, and assault carriers. His dark eyes narrowed with determination. This was no simple campaign. It was an all-out war of annihilation. "This is where the humans fall," he growled to his second-in-command, Captain Rox. "No more clever tricks. No more small skirmishes. We burn their world, and we bury their species in the ashes." Rox, who had fought in numerous battles against various species, but never encountered anything like the humans, nodded grimly. "The Terrans are resourceful, but they cannot stand against this. We have the numbers and the firepower. Their illusions of victory will crumble." As the fleet prepared to launch its final assault, the Raxer ships moved into formation, their massive engines lighting up the darkness of the nebula. It was an intimidating sight, a wall of destruction, an armada designed to crush any hope of resistance. What the Raxer didn't know, however, was that they were not as hidden as they believed. Deep within the Zelthan Nebula, humanity was watching. Commander Amina Ortiz stood at the observation deck aboard the Terran Defense Force flagship Resolute *, her eyes fixed on the glowing holographic display of the incoming Raxer fleet. She knew this battle would be different. The Raxer had gathered every available ship, determined to deliver a final decisive blow. Earth itself was their target. Standing beside her was Captain Eric Voss, leader of the Ghosts of Earth. His expression was as cold and unreadable as ever, but Ortiz knew the wheels were turning in his mind, calculating the risks, planning the next move. Behind them, a room full of top military strategists, AI analysts, and tactical operators worked in perfect synchronization. "It's a massive fleet," Orts murmured, her tone contemplative yet steady. "If they break through here, they'll head straight for Earth. This is it." "They think brute force will win the day," Voss said quietly, his gaze unflinching. "They're wrong." Reyes appeared on the central holoscreen, his face hardened. "The Raxor are overconfident. They've concentrated all their forces in one place, betting everything on overwhelming us. But we've seen this coming." Ortiz nodded. "It's time we show them what Earth can truly do." The Terran Defense Force had been preparing for this very moment. While the Raxor focused on sheer numbers and firepower, humanity had used every resource at its disposal: technological superiority, advanced AI, and the decentralized power of the Neural Command Interface, NCI, to ensure they would be ready for any challenge. This battle would determine the future of humanity. "Deploy the orbital defense platforms," Reyes commanded, his voice calm but firm, "and scramble every available fighter squadron. The Raxor think they have the advantage because they outnumber us, but they have no idea what they're walking into." As the Raxor fleet surged forward, the first wave of their attack fleet emerged from the nebula, weapons primed and ready to obliterate anything in their path. However, as they crossed the boundary into Terran space, they were met with a devastating surprise. Hundreds of automated defense platforms activated simultaneously, their eye-controlled turrets locking onto the Raxor ships and firing a coordinated barrage of high-energy plasma bolts. Dreadnoughts that had been considered unstoppable were vaporized in seconds. The Raxor commanders scrambled to regain control, but it was too late. The first line of their fleet was already in chaos. "Return fire," General Arlox bellowed, slamming his fist onto the control panel. "Break through their defenses." Raxor ships unleashed a storm of energy beams and missiles, but the Terran platforms weren't their only enemy. Hidden in the dense clouds of the Zelthan Nebula, squadrons of Terran strike craft and stealth drones swooped down, tearing through the Raxor's flanks with precision strikes. Pilots, their minds linked to the NCI, flew in perfect coordination, reacting faster than any Raxor ship could counter. On the Resolute Asterisk, Orts and Voss watched as the battle unfolded. The Raxor, caught in a tactical web of sabotage and precision strikes, began to lose their cohesion. "The ghosts are in position," Voss reported calmly. "We've infiltrated their command ship. They won't know what hit them." Aboard the Ravager General Arlox felt the uneasy shift in the tide of battle. His fleet, once an unstoppable force, was now floundering. Alarms blared as systems went offline, and key ships were destroyed in rapid succession. Then, without warning, the lights in his command center flickered. Arlox froze as he realized the truth. "The humans," he whispered, eyes wide with disbelief. "They've been inside the whole time." On the Resolute Asterisk, Orts received confirmation from Voss. "The Raxor command ship has been neutralized. Their fleet is in disarray." Ortiz allowed herself a brief smile. "Send a message to Earth. The Raxor's last stand is over. Humanity had won again, not through numbers, but through sheer ingenuity. The galaxy would never see Earth as weak again." The aftermath of the battle at the Zelthan Nebula reverberated through the galaxy. The once mighty Raxor Empire, known for its relentless conquests and devastating military might, lay crippled. General Arlox's defeat was not just a loss in battle. It marked a turning point in the perception of humanity throughout the stars. No longer would they be seen as a mere footnote in the galactic ledger. They had shown they could stand against a formidable opponent and emerge victorious. As the remains of the Raxor fleet drifted silently in the nebula, Commander Amina Ortiz stood before the council chamber of the Galactic Alliance. The once boisterous representatives of various species sat in stunned silence, their faces pale as they absorbed the ramifications of humanity's decisive victory. The air buzzed with tension as Ortiz prepared to deliver a message that would resonate throughout the galaxy. Esteemed members of the Galactic Alliance, Orts began, her voice steady and commanding. Today, we stand at a crossroads. The Raxor Empire sought to erase us, to obliterate our existence because they underestimated our resolve. They believed that sheer numbers could crush the spirit of humanity. They were wrong. The council chamber erupted into murmurs, a mixture of disbelief and curiosity rippling through the assembled representatives. Ortiz raised her hand for silence, her demeanor unyielding. Humanity has endured much, she continued. From the darkest corners of our own history to the stars above, we have fought to protect our freedom and our way of life. We have risen, not through brute force, but through resilience and intelligence. And now we offer the galaxy an ultimatum. An eerie quiet settled over the chamber as Ortiz made her point clear. Let it be known that we will not tolerate aggression against our people any longer. The Raxor Empire has been given a chance to surrender. We demand the cessation of hostilities and the recognition of humanity as an equal member of the Galactic Alliance. The murmurs intensified again. This time, the representatives exchanged looks of concern and intrigue. Ortiz could see that some were sympathetic to her cause, while others appeared skeptical, questioning the wisdom of confronting such a powerful empire. The Raxor have a choice, she continued, unwavering. They can accept this ultimatum and rejoin the interstellar community as partners, or they can continue to wage a feudal war against a race that has proven its mettle. Should they choose the latter, they will find no respite. We will not relent. We will not back down. Her eyes burned with conviction. This is not a threat. This is a promise. We will not allow our home to be trampled upon. We are prepared to defend our sovereignty with everything we have. The representative from the Elysian Federation, a tall figure with shimmering skin, stood. Commander Ortiz, while your bravery is commendable, you must understand the implications of your words. You speak of partnership with the Raxor, but they are notorious for their ruthlessness. How can we trust that they will heed your ultimatum? Ortz's gaze narrowed. Trust is earned through action. We have shown our capacity for strength, and we offer the Raxor a chance to respond with diplomacy. If they refuse, it is not just a loss for them. It is a loss for every species that wishes to thrive in peace. We will not allow tyranny to rise again. As she spoke, a holographic projection materialized above the chamber, displaying images of the Raxor's destroyed warships, remnants of the recent battle that had shaken the Empire to its core. This is the consequence of underestimating humanity. We will defend ourselves, and we will defend the principles of freedom and cooperation. General Reyes, standing at Ortiz's side, added, We have been a young and fractured species, but we have learned from our past. We will not allow history to repeat itself. If the Raxor choose to attack again, they will face the full might of a united human front, enhanced by the knowledge we have gained and the allies we will forge. The room was filled with a heavy silence as the council members contemplated the implications of Ortiz's words. The representative from the United Sinian Alliance broke the quiet. What you propose is not just a risk for the Raxor, but for us all. If we stand against them, we must be united. Will humanity bear the burden of this ultimatum alone? Ortiz nodded. No, this is not solely a human battle. If the Raxor refuse to accept peace, we will stand together, one galaxy united against tyranny. We will forge alliances where we can and strengthen our resolve. The time for hesitation is over. The weight of her words hung in the air, and Ortiz could feel the tide of opinion shifting. Many representatives began to exchange glances, their expressions changing from skepticism to intrigue. Very well, the Elysian representative said finally. Let us rally together then. If the Raxor refuse your offer, we will support humanity in this stand. Together, we can face whatever comes. With that, the atmosphere in the chamber shifted. Humanity's ultimatum was not merely a call to action. It had become a rallying cry for a galaxy on the brink of transformation. As Ortiz stepped down from the podium, she felt the weight of history upon her shoulders. They had opened the door to a new era, one defined not by fear, but by the strength of unity. The challenge ahead would be great, but they were ready to face it together. The Raxor Empire stood on the precipice of its fate. In the aftermath of Commander Amina Ortez's bold ultimatum, the galactic community had rallied in ways no one had anticipated. Throughout the stars, messages were exchanged, alliances formed, and countless representatives mobilized in response to the threat posed by the once mighty Raxor. As the sun rose over the Terran capital, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The Galactic Alliance had agreed to convene at the newly established diplomatic hub on Luna, Earth's moon. It was here that representatives from numerous species would gather to discuss the future of the galaxy, the implications of humanity's ultimatum, and the fate of the Raxor Empire. Amina Ortez stood in the central chamber of the lunar facility, a structure gleaming with the finest advancements in technology. The walls were adorned with holographic displays showcasing the varied cultures represented in the Alliance, each symbol reflecting the commitment to unity against aggression. This was the dawn of a new era. She glanced around the chamber, noting the wide array of representatives. The delicate, ethereal beings of the Elysian Federation stood alongside the sturdy, stoic representatives of the Kriktheri and the agile, quick-witted delegates from the Nomad League. Each delegation brought with it its own unique perspectives, but all shared a common goal: to prevent the resurgence of tyranny. The atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Ort stepped up to the podium, her heart pounding with the weight of the moment. She cleared her throat, and the room fell silent. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Alliance," she began, her voice echoing with resolve. "We gather here not just as individual species, but as a collective force against oppression. Today, we take a stand for peace, for mutual respect, and for the right to exist without fear." As she spoke, the audience leaned forward, captivated by her presence. The Raxor Empire has shown us the dangers of underestimating the United Front. They have been given an ultimatum to cease their aggressive pursuits and recognize humanity as an equal partner in this galaxy. But let it be known, we are prepared for the consequences if they refuse. The Elysian representative, a tall figure with luminescent skin, raised a hand. "Commander Ortez, should the Raxor choose violence, what measures will we take to ensure our safety and the safety of other peaceful species?" Orts met the gaze of the Elysian. "We must be willing to confront them head-on. This will require not only a show of force, but a comprehensive strategy. We will fortify our defenses, enhance our fleets, and develop joint training exercises. But more importantly, we will establish a shared intelligence network among our forces, utilizing the advancements of our technologies. Together, we will be stronger." General Reyes, standing off to the side, nodded approvingly. "We've already begun coordinating efforts. The technology that allowed us to secure victory against the Raxor is being shared with our allies. The Ghosts of Earth are prepared to train operatives from other species, ensuring that we are ready for any potential conflict." As discussions continued, it became evident that the Galactic Alliance was moving beyond mere cooperation. They were forming a new military doctrine. Under the banner of this unified front, they began to develop protocols and strategies designed to foster a proactive, rather than reactive approach to interstellar threats. Over the next few weeks, as the Raxor deliberated on their fate, the Alliance solidified. The various species pooled their technological resources, constructing a series of advanced orbital defense stations, while a new fleet of ships, designed for speed, agility, and advanced AI integration, began to take shape. Meanwhile, in the heart of the Raxor Empire, General Arlox convened a council of war. Surrounded by his advisors, he felt the weight of impending doom. "The humans have galvanized the galaxy against us," he rumbled, his voice low and filled with anger. "We must retaliate before our enemies grow too strong. They cannot be allowed to dictate terms." But dissent began to brew among his ranks. Captain Hrox, who had fought alongside Arlox, stepped forward. "General, what if we accepted their offer? The galaxy is uniting against us, and we stand to lose everything. We could shift our focus toward rebuilding and diplomacy instead of fighting a war we cannot win." Arlox's scaly features twisted with rage. You dare suggest we bow to the humans? They will use this moment to crush us entirely. Prox remained resolute. Or we can negotiate. If we accept their terms, we might salvage our empire and secure a place in the new order. The galaxy is changing, General. We must adapt. As the sun set over Earth, Amina Ortiz received news that would forever change the trajectory of the galaxy. The Raxor Empire had sent a delegation to the Alliance's headquarters on Luna. Their intention? To negotiate terms of peace and acceptance. When the Raxor delegates entered the chamber, the atmosphere shifted. Ortiz, flanked by Reyes and other leaders of the Alliance, prepared to meet them with both caution and hope. Let this be the beginning of a new understanding, Ortiz declared, stepping forward to greet the Raxor representatives. We can build a future that respects every life form in this galaxy. As the delegates took their seats, Ortiz felt a sense of relief mixed with apprehension. The seeds of a new order had been planted. The galaxy had the chance to unite against oppression and build a future where all species could coexist in peace. The dawn of a new galactic order had begun, one where humanity had not only survived but thrived, proving that even the smallest army could bring about monumental change. The universe held endless possibilities, and together, they would explore them, forging a path into the stars, united against the darkness.